So this is the Skullcandy Terrain. Now Skullcandy did a really good job of packing this speaker with features, and it also has a very long lasting battery life. But it only sounds good enough to get the job done. But today we're going to compare the Skullcandy Terrain to the JBL Flip 6, which is just a lot more premium and sounds a lot better than the Skullcandy Terrain. But let's see if it's worth it to you to pay extra for the Flip 6. Regarding pricing, the Skullcandy Terrain has a retail price of $60, whereas the Flip 6 has a retail price of twice as much, $120, but it does like to go on sale for $100. Overall, I love recommending the Flip 6, but if you want to pick either of these two speakers up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, pick up a big head approved hat, linked down below. We've got trucker hats and snapbacks. By buying a hat, you help the unbiased and unsponsored videos coming, and it also helps us cover more products and produce more versus videos. Thank you to everyone who's already bought a hat, and look out for more designs coming soon. And also, please remember to hit that like button and let's get subscribed. Now, first let's talk about the design of these two speakers. Both speakers are small portable Bluetooth speakers. They're both very durable because they both have fabric wrap bodies. They're both waterproof and they both have a carrying strap so you can carry these speakers or attach them to something. Really, the main difference between these two speakers is their weight. The Terrain weighs in at 458 grams and the Flip 6 weighs in at 550 grams. So the Terrain is a little less dense. Nonetheless, both of these speakers are good options if you're looking for something to take on the go with you. But when it comes to tech specs, the Flip 6 has an advertised battery life of 12 hours, but that's with this speaker playing at 50% volume. Real-world use with this speaker playing at 80% volume, and 80% volume is a really good listening volume on this speaker, is going to be good for about 8 hours of playback time. Whereas with the Terrain, it has an advertised battery life of 14 hours, but with it playing at max volume, then this speaker is going to be good for about 8 hours of playback time. Now, the reason why the battery life on the Terrain lasts a lot longer than the Flip 6 is because the Terrain is a 12-watt speaker, whereas the Flip 6 is a 30-watt speaker. So with the Terrain, it's just not going to get as loud or have as much bass as the Flip 6. And when it comes to charging these speakers, both of these speakers charge via a USB-C port, as they should. But this is actually the only port that you will find on these speakers because neither of these two speakers have an audio jack. So you can't use either of these two speakers with a wired connection. And personally, this is rather standard for speakers of this size and price in 2023. Now, when it comes to Bluetooth connectivity, the Flip 6 can be connected to two devices at the same time so you and a friend can both be DJ. Whereas with the Terrain, it can only be connected to one device at a time. But at least you can watch videos with both of these speakers because latency is not an issue. But with the simple stuff out of the way, let's talk about sound. The Terrain has your typical dual frontward firing woofers and dual passive radiators that shoot out the sides. Whereas the Flip 6, its setup is a lot more impressive. The Flip 6 has a frontward firing woofer that handles the mids, and it has a tweeter that handles the highs. And it has dual passive radiators that shoot out the sides. Now, the woofer and tweeter setup on the Flip 6 is important because it helps the speakers sound more open, but let me just show you. So, like you may have just seen, the Charge 5 also has a woofer that handles the mids and a tweeter that handles the highs. So that's going to give the Flip 6 a lot better instrument separation. But now we're going to jump into the sound test. Both speakers are playing at 75% volume with their stock EQs.
We keep seeing their eyeballs glued to us on the sidewalk, but that look could kill. They are trying so hard to find all the weaknesses inside, but it's gonna spill. Oh, can we take a minute, turn and face the critics? Let's put flowers in our hair like we don't care. And there's a village clown booth, nobody's stopping our groove. Oh, that's good, it's just you and me, and making me laugh with your moves. Ain't no stopping our groove. Oh, that's vibe, girl. Disco, some fun like one of a kind, girl. Till morning's here. When opinions start to guide us, we won't let them define us. No, we'll play it by ear. And I know that you're shy, but we can clown around tonight. You know the circus leaves town when it's out, and there's a village clown booth. Nobody's stopping our groove. Ooh, that's good. It's just you and me, and making it laugh with your moves. Ain't no stopping our groove. Ooh, that's good. It's just you and me. And we can clown around, yeah. And we can clown around. It's just you and me. Now it's your turn to clown around and take a train to Freaky Town, and we could just clown around like this, you know. We could just clown around a bit and dance a village clown moves. Nobody's stopping our groove. Ooh, that's good. It's just you and me, and making it laugh with your moves. Ain't no stopping our groove. Ooh, that's good. It's just you and me, and we can clown around, yeah. And we can clown around, and it's just you and me. And we can clown around, yeah. And we can clown around when it's just you and me.
So from a sound quality standpoint, the Terrain has a very strong V-shaped sound signature, as in it puts an emphasis on the bass and highs, but there isn't much detail in the mids. So with the Terrain, you're mainly going to hear the bass and vocals, and this speaker is going to sound rather shallow. Whereas with the Flip 6, it sounds a lot more open because it has much better instrument separation. There's a lot more detail in the mids, and the speaker also has much deeper bass than the Terrain. And with the Flip 6, you can also adjust its sound to your liking because it has an adjustable EQ, whereas with the Terrain, you're stuck with its V-shaped sound signature. And when it comes to max volume performance, the Flip 6 gets significantly louder than the Terrain. So plainly said, the Flip 6 sounds much better than the Terrain. It has much better instrument separation, it has much better detail in the mids, it has more bass, it gets louder, and distortion isn't a problem for the Flip 6, which is something that I can't say about the Terrain. But finally, let's talk about pairing these speakers up with other speakers. Now, the Flip 6 is using JBL's Party Boost, meaning that you can pair it up to other JBL Party Boost speakers, like either a Boombox 3, a Boombox 2, an Extreme 3, a Charge 5, a Pulse 5, a Pulse 4, a Flip 5, or to a Flip 6, and you can pair up to 100 speakers together. Now, with the Flip 6, if you have different speakers, you can get them to play in sync, or if you have two of the exact same speakers, then you can get them to play in left and right stereo mode. But then there's the Skullcandy Terrain, which is using Skullcandy's multi-link, so you can pair it up to other multi-link speakers, like either a Terrain XL, a Terrain, or to a Terrain Mini, and you can pair up to 99 speakers together. Now with Skullcandy's multi-link, you can get your speakers and you can get them to play in sync. Or you can get any two Terrain speakers regardless of size and you can get them to play in left and right stereo mode. So with the Terrain, if you have, let's say, a Terrain XL or a Terrain Mini, you can get them to play in left and right stereo mode. Whereas with JBL's Party Boost, you need to have two of the exact same speakers to get left and right stereo mode going. So overall, I am going to have to say that both JBL and Skullcandy have really good speaker pairing protocols because they're very easy to use. Your speakers get paired up very quickly and skipping is not an issue. But I am going to have to say that Skullcandy has the better speaker pairing protocol here because you can get left and right stereo sound going with any two speakers. Just keep in mind that you cannot pair a Terrain to, let's say, a Skullcandy Kilo or a Skullcandy Ounce. So with all that being said, yes, the JBL Flip 6 is more expensive than the Skullcandy Terrain, but it sounds significantly better. It has much better instrument separation, it has better detail in the mids, it sounds much more open, it gets louder, and it has more bass. Whereas with the Skullcandy Terrain, it sounds good enough to get the job done. So if you want to save money and if you want something that's going to last you a long time on a single charge, then you might want to go with the Skullcandy Terrain. Just don't expect the best sound quality out of it. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.